are so far undefeated. They shut out the San Francisco.
Some retirees oppose the switch because they worry they'll lose access to certain doctors, procedures, and drugs. Jake Gardner, a lawyer representing the NYC Organization of Public Service Retirees, says they will challenge the plan.
This is going to have catastrophic consequences for countless senior citizens and disabled first responders.
That needs to be quicker, though, yeah? Ready? Some retirees oppose the switch because they worry they'll lose access to certain doctors, procedures, and drugs.
You're listening to Uptown Radio. It's Thursday, March 30th. I'm Elizabeth Erb. New York State will give billions of dollars to underserved communities for climate change projects. So which ones are in line to get the money?
We definitely want to make sure that we're getting the voice of the community rather than just coming up with projects and saying, okay, let's just stick them in this community.
Lawmakers in Albany are looking to expand the state's bottle bill. If they succeed, your trash may be worth a little more.
What we're trying to do is raise the deposit really to incentivize people to bring their bottles and cans back.
Today is opening day for Major League Baseball at Yankee Stadium, and fans are excited.
There is a dynasty brewing here in the Bronx. You heard it here first.
Also, food delivery workers say they can't tell good e-bike batteries from bad. All that and more on Uptown Radio. But first, the news.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Nora Rahm. The White House is condemning the detention of a Wall Street Journal reporter in Russia. As NPR's Franco Ordonez reports, the Biden administration is in touch with the newspaper and the reporter's family.
President Biden has been briefed on the detention of Evan Gershkovich, according to the National Security Council spokesman John Kirby.
As we've said before, the targeting of American citizens by the Russian government is absolutely, completely unacceptable. And we condemn Mr. Gershkovich's detention, and we do so in the strongest terms.
Kirby said the U.S. Embassy is in touch with the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. It's seeking consular access to Gershkovich. Kirby said he could not speak to a motive for Russia's actions and whether they were retaliatory, but he emphasized that any Americans residing or traveling in Russia should leave immediately. Franco Ordonez, NPR News, the White House.
Military officials say 2 Black Hawk helicopters crashed in Kentucky last night. 9 service members were killed. The helicopters were on a routine training mission when they went down in a field about 30 miles northwest of their base at Fort Campbell. Residents in the small town of Raymond, Minnesota are returning to their homes after a train wreck and fire overnight. Tim Nelson of Minnesota Public News says the BNSF train was carrying ethanol and corn syrup.
The ethanol caught fire, and residents said they could see the flames from the burning train from much of the town. Fire crews from small towns in the area had to truck water to the scene on the edge of town to fight the fire. An evacuation order was lifted just before lunchtime in Raymond. That's about 90 miles west of Minneapolis. No injuries have been reported, and federal investigators are responding to the derailment.
Tim Nelson reporting. More than 1,000 protesters gathered at the Tennessee state capitol this morning, calling for more restrictions on guns. The rally is a response to the school shooting that left 7 people dead, including 3 children. From member station WPLN, Blaise Gainey reports.
Parents and kids of all ages filled the galleries, hallways, and Capitol lawn as the House and Senate held session. At one point, law enforcement stopped letting people in the building due to it being at maximum capacity. Janet Makis, a pastor in Nashville, says the Republican lawmakers won't talk to her.
Is anybody going to do anything, or do we just continue to have weapons of war on the streets? If you're so concerned about mental health, then every single person who buys a gun should have an extensive mental health background.
Current gun laws in Tennessee allow adults 21 and older to purchase a gun after passing a background check. There is no license or training required. A law reducing the age to 18 is expected to pass this session. For NPR News, I'm Blaze Gainey in Nashville.
On Wall Street, just before the close, the Dow is up 141 points. This is NPR News.
From Columbia Radio News in New York, I'm Isabel Tier. Mayor Eric Adams signed a contract today that will eliminate traditional Medicare coverage for roughly 250,000 retired city government workers. As of September 1st, the retirees will instead be enrolled in a privatized version of Medicare coverage through Aetna. Some retirees oppose the switch because they worry they'll lose access to certain doctors, procedures, and drugs. Jake Gardner, a lawyer representing the NYC Organization of Public Service Retirees, says they will challenge the plan.
This is going to have catastrophic consequences for countless senior citizens and disabled first responders.
But Mayor Adams says the new plan will result in lower deductibles for the retired workers and save the city an estimated $600 million annually. You'll no longer find MTA station agents sitting in their booths, or so the city says. Starting this morning, the over 2,000 station agents in New York City were instructed to assist commuters outside their service booths. It's part of an effort to improve customer service, the MTA says. But Uptown Radio went to 4 stations on the Upper West Side, and none of the agents were outside their booths. After being coaxed outside, the station agent at 110th and Broadway says she thinks it's a good idea in theory.
It's easier to communicate with the customers coming outside and helping them. I think that it'll be helpful for the customers.
The agents will be paid $1 more per hour while also acting as the eyes and ears of the station, reporting any maintenance needs to the MTA. An ambulance was in a rush early this morning, but not because of an emergency. Police have arrested the man who stole an ambulance from St. Luke's Morningside Hospital. The man, Matthew Chaco, and the ambulance were apprehended on the Mario Cuomo Bridge earlier today. It's 46 degrees and sunny, but don't let that fool you. It's chilly and windy out there. Isabel Tier, Columbia Radio News.
You're listening to Uptown Radio. I'm Elizabeth Erb. Whether you love them or hate them, the e-bikes in New York City are here to stay. But the unsafe batteries have got to go. This month, Mayor Eric Adams signed into law to regulate the batteries that have caused hundreds of fires in the city over the past several years. But as Isabel Tier reports, many delivery workers are stuck in limbo between the stores selling the batteries and the laws regulating them.
This month, delivery worker Samad Soray was speeding downtown on his e-bike to deliver an order when he felt something sting his leg.
I feel something like a stink, like burn, something burned.
The battery on his e-bike was smoking. Soray quickly jumped off the bike and ripped the battery from the dock. Within seconds, it was up in flames.
And the battery burned, and the fire happened.
Soray wasn't injured when his battery caught fire that night, but it scared him. And so he stopped charging his e-bike batteries at his Bronx apartment and started paying Javi's Bike Shop $42 a month to charge them in the store.
Your life is very important,
Are you afraid of a fire in your house?
When I'm not there, something can happen and the house gonna take fire.
In the last 3 months, the fire department has responded to 45 different fires sparked by the lithium-ion batteries used in e-bikes. 3 people have died, and many more have been injured. That's why Mayor Eric Adams signed new legislation this month to regulate the batteries. But before we jump into that, I wanted to understand why so many of these batteries were sparking fires in the first place. So I spoke to Jordan Ladd, an advanced battery engineer. He says to understand what's going wrong, you need to first understand what should be going right.
A good battery has a really good monitoring system. Your battery as a whole is made up of many small cells, and a management system keeps track of each of those cells to make sure one of them in particular isn't working too hard.
This is one of the main issues lithium-ion batteries run into. And the bigger these batteries get, and the more power we try to squeeze out of them, the riskier they are. Which brings us back to the legislation signed this month banning the sale and use of batteries that fail to meet safety standards. This includes all batteries that have been reconfigured using secondhand parts. Ladd, the battery engineer, says these Frankenstein batteries are especially dangerous.
From an engineering perspective, you need to make sure the battery is designed as a whole rather than as a sum of different parts that might not work well.
The problem is, delivery workers like Samad Soray don't know whether their batteries are certified or not. Soray pulls out the battery from his e-bike. Nothing about certification. No stickers, no markings.
It's like we don't know where the battery come from, and we just go to the store and buy it. We don't know anything about that.
And this frustrates Soray. He said he paid good money for his battery. It cost him $400.
They don't care about your life or something happened. They don't know where the battery from.
Mayor Adams says the new legislation isn't intended to target the delivery workers that rely on these batteries. The legislation is geared more towards cracking down on the import of the batteries and the stores selling them, which they did. Last week, the police fined Javi's bike shop for charging multiple uncertified batteries. And now, the bike shop won't let Soray charge his battery at the store. Eventually, the mayor says there will be safe charging stations throughout the city. But until then, Soray says he'll be charging his batteries outside, on the fire escape of his apartment. Isabel Tier, Columbia Radio News.
New York State has finalized a list of the disadvantaged communities that will be first in line for money to fight climate change. The state plans to spend $300 billion on projects that reduce pollution and carbon emissions, and it wants poor neighborhoods to get some of the benefits first. Earlier today, I spoke with Alana Cadell-Tuckey. She's with the State Department of Environmental Conservation, and she explained how they picked who gets the investment.
So the Climate Justice Working Group examined about 170 different potential indicators that basically fell under the requirements of the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act: socioeconomic data, data on race, data on climate-related burdens and environmental burdens and health burdens.
What will these communities get?
35% of the overall benefit, the spending on renewable energy projects, energy efficiency projects, and some of these are projects that already existing, and a lot of this is funding that is already existing, will be realized in disadvantaged communities.
The law says that money is supposed to go to disadvantaged communities, but when I was looking at the map, I saw that Hudson Yards is listed, and then there's other places like parts of Hollis, Queens that was flooded after Hurricane Ian, and that's not included. Is Hudson Yards a disadvantaged community?
So when we determine what is a disadvantaged community, it is based on numbers. So it's not simply it's a combination of population and socioeconomic data, and also environmental burdens and climate-related vulnerabilities. We create a composite score for both of those, and then we added those scores together.
Is there a risk at just looking at the data and the numbers and maybe not considering real lived experience?
So we are hearing of lived experiences of communities that are represented not just by the advocates, but for folks who have spoken to us. So we take into consideration not just those data points, but also what we have seen.
How will the money be distributed, and will the communities have to do anything, or will they just receive the funding?
So I think that's where sort of the misunderstanding is with regards to how this works. It's not going to be just folks getting checks that are handed to them. It's not just a pot of money where people can just dip in and take money out. This is funding that exists on a state agency level.
So who is going to steer the planning and who decides where the funding will go?
So that is largely going to be by state agencies and state entities, but that doesn't mean that residents of these communities will have zero say in the process. We definitely want to make sure that we're getting the voice of the community rather than just, creating, coming up with projects and saying, okay, let's just stick them in this community.
Why should vulnerable communities have to take on the burden of these new projects when they're not responsible for greenhouse gas emissions?
While, folks are not necessarily responsible for those issues, it kind of is incumbent on all of us to try to mitigate this damage to the extent possible.
And shouldn't well-off communities take more responsibility?
Absolutely. It's not fair that everybody's benefiting from having these modern conveniences, but not everybody is bearing the burdens equally. So I think that it's incumbent upon those who live in areas where they don't have to deal with those environmental burdens to sort of stand up and recognize that there are folks who are bearing a disproportionate burden from the comforts that they're experiencing.
That was Alana Kettletucky, DEC's Director of the Office of Environmental Justice. Thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely.
Migrants in New York City are faced with a lot of challenges. They have to find housing, jobs, and a new community. Then they have to make sure their children have a way to make friends and pass the time. A new program in New York is helping with that last one, offering after-school chess classes for immigrants. Valentina Zarins-Martinez reports.
This last January, 10th grader Kyle Lackman and his brother Caleb opened the doors of the Times Square Immigrant Chess Club. Kyle saw the news about migrant families arriving in New York City. His family is originally from Argentina, so he knows how hard it can be to come to a new country. He and his twin brother Caleb started to talk about what they could do to address this problem and decided to open a club that would cater to the needs of the newcomers.
I've always played chess, and we both have, me and my brother. And when we saw that like a lot of migrants were coming in to New York, we knew that we could teach them, and we can speak Spanish as well, so bring chess to people coming in and help them in any sort of way, not just chess, but also get a community and learn English.
They started the Times Square Migrant Chess Club. Anyone is invited, and the two put up advertising flyers in refugee shelters and hotels where migrants are staying. At the W Hotel in Midtown, Jacqueline and her son Samuel spotted the flyers.
En el hotel donde estamos en el shelter, llevaron unos volantes que decía que clases de inglés y ajedrez.
And she says her son got really excited and said, "Mom, please take me."
Mamá, llévame, y vinimos por eso.
Jacqueline, her husband and Samuel came to New York as refugees from Colombia a few months ago. They found a community where they feel welcome and supported, at a church basement in Times Square of all places. There are tables here with 6 different chess sets. Children from 6 to 14 years old are hunched over the pieces, planning their next moves. Kyle Lackman, the teenager who started the club, says they also have English lessons for the parents, math tutoring, and art projects for the younger kids.
I think we kind of help the kids integrate a bit. They're just coming in from South and Central America, and they've never spoken English. They never played chess. So yeah, that's what we try to do. Not just chess, but also we try to help them get a sense of community.
The space can only fit around 25 people. The class is staffed with volunteers, including George Skelter. He's currently the director of the program and an art teacher. He studied art in the UK, and his child is a chess player. He says it's been impressive how quickly the children have learned.
They all started from nothing, from zero, from scratch. And in the space of the few months that they've been learning chess, they became competent enough to go to the New York State Championships, which is no mean feat.
The child who spotted the flyer at the W Hotel, Samuel, is here today. He says at first he was really nervous because there were a lot of people.
El primer día que llegué me sentí muy nervioso y nunca había aprendido ajedrez y ya sé bastante ajedrez.
But after he got used to the place, he was really excited to play. Even though he has only been training for a few months, he has been able to win matches against more experienced players. His mother told us that his dream is to move forward with chess. The program seems to be working, but George says that of course it doesn't solve all the family's problems.
What we can do is limited. All the people here will say that it's been something that has given them something to look forward to on a daily basis, something that's given their week a bit of structure, and I would like to think that it's given them some sense of the future in terms of something positive.
Mariangel's sister, who's one of the girls that attends the club regularly, says that the most important thing about the club has been the network of support that people have been able to create within it.
Yo creo que este tipo de comunidad ayuda a mucha gente a conocerse entre sí, a conocer sus historias y entre ellos mismos ayudarse.
The Times Square Migrant Chess Club is going to lose their space here in the church basement. But they have good news. The program is going to incorporate into city schools, with plans to include over 200 migrant children. This is Valentina Zares Martinez reporting for Uptown Radio News.
You're listening to Uptown Radio. More stories on the way. Stick around. Welcome back. I'm Elizabeth Erb. Coming up on the show, a new bottle bill may mean more money in your pocket when you return bottles and cans. High school students are learning medical schools to get jobs when they graduate. And today is opening day for Major League Baseball at Yankee Stadium. Play ball, ahead on Uptown Radio. In Albany, politicians are finishing up work on the state's budget. And some lawmakers think now is the time to modernize New York's 40-year-old bottle bill. Thomas Copeland reports. We'll have that with you in a second on Uptown Radio. High schools have long taught vocational skills like car repair and woodworking, but a new program in New York City is training young people in medical skills. And it's partnering with a hospital to make sure the students can get jobs after they graduate. V. Tran visited the program.
The Urban Assembly Maker Academy is a public high school on the Lower East Side. It specializes in emergency management to prepare the students for different paths of the medical field. Recently, they were one of the first schools to get money from the state for a program called Future Ready NYC. This program allows schools to partner with workplaces to get new work skills for students. Rashid Bilati is the principal there, and he says not every student needs to go to college.
While we do think that going to college is really important, we don't know if students want to go to college as soon as they graduate from high school, so exposing them to opportunities while they're in high school is like really important.
The new opportunities at this school are to learn about healthcare. They have partnered with Northwell Health. The school offers students a chance to get the skills needed to become an emergency medical technician, an EMT.
When they do leave the school, they are equipped to have like a rewarding career, long-term socioeconomic like security, and to be a force in the workplace.
One of the students in the program is Justin Trigueros. He's a senior who took classes on CPR. He's now an intern with the Emergency Services Department that takes care of public housing.
And I found that it was pretty interesting, and it was a great learning experience for myself and the field that I want to get into in the future.
And what is the field that you want to get in the future?
I want to do more of law enforcement and like medical side of things. So having that experience with a department that deals with all three, that being police, fire, and medical, it was a great experience. It's a great experience and a learning experience for me.
Currently, there are 25 students in the internship program. Michael Buckney is the school's work-based learning coordinator. He says the internship is only for seniors to make sure that the students do get a full education.
By your senior year, you've earned most of your credits. Your schedule is starting to, become a lot of fluff classes or interesting classes. Well, let's get you to your core classes in the morning, and let's get you out the door at lunch and go start your job, in the afternoon. And that's a model that works.
Buckney says one nice thing about the program is that you can see success right away.
If they were to go through the EMT program and earn their New York State EMT license, they could work, in July, weeks after they graduate, they would be eligible and certified to work. And we have students who have taken that path.
At this school, the focus is healthcare, But eventually, this program will expand to other schools and offer internships in other areas like technology, business, and education. It is expected that more than 30 high schools will end up taking part, reaching about 5,000 students. Vitran, Columbia Radio News.
Back in Albany, politicians are still finishing up work on the state's budget. And some lawmakers think it now is the time to modernize New York's 40-year-old bottle bill. Thomas Copeland reports.
Oscar Cabral-san is a busy guy.
For later, I don't have time to make one interview with you right now because...
No, it's okay. Keep going.
Okay.
Oscar is what they call a canner. He gets up very early every day, picks up cans and bottles from the streets of New York and throws them into his shopping cart. Next, he comes to this redemption center here in Brooklyn to sort everything he's collected into separate boxes. This box?
35, 43, everything. 43.
How much money?
$2.15.
For every can or bottle that Oscar collects, he gets 5 cents. That's the bottle bill in action. And when you're working 10 hours a day, that can start to add up. How much do you make on a good day?
$70 or $80 is good day. Very good day.
And Oscar's good days might soon get a lot better. State lawmakers are looking at expanding the bottle bill. I went to see one of the environmentalists behind the plan. Hey, Ryan.
Hey, great to have you. Thanks for coming by.
This is Ryan Thorison Carson. He's the activist coordinating the campaign to boost the bottle bill. I met him at his brownstone apartment in Brooklyn. He says there's 2 parts to the plan. The first is to double the refund from a nickel to a dime.
What we're trying to do is raise the deposit really to incentivize people to bring their bottles and cans back. Right now we're at about a 64% return rate. We think that we could get up to 90% just by increasing the deposit by 5 cents.
So that's part 1. To explain part 2, Ryan takes me into his kitchen where there are sparkly streamers hanging from the ceiling. So you had a party a couple of days ago?
Yes.
Okay, and you still got some bottles around?
Still got a few bottles around, yeah. So I'm opening my fridge. So I can recycle this right here. This is a LaCroix, a LaCroix. I never know how to say these. With this, you would be able to return it. But over here, we have a Tito's vodka bottle. This is made of glass. It is not covered under the program. Glass beer bottles are, but things like this vodka alcohol bottle are not covered.
So that's part 2. Increase the number of eligible containers to include wine and liquor bottles, plus non-carbonated drinks like coffee, tea and fruit juice. Ryan says that would more than double the number of bottles that can be traded in. But this raises a logistical problem. The way the law works at the moment, anyone who sells a refundable container has to accept it back. Right now, wine and liquor stores don't get many refunds, but the new plan would change that, and some liquor store owners are nervous.
So right here, I love Cabernets from Paso Robles, and Austin Hope is my favorite. Big, full body, robust.
What would you drink that with?
Big, juicy steak. Medium rare, of course.
Okay, show me where you're keeping all this stuff. Michael Carrera runs a liquor store in Brooklyn, and he leads a citywide association of liquor stores. He's worried that if the bottle bill grows to include wine and liquor, he just won't have the space to store all the refunded bottles. So this is down into the basement?
Yes.
Down here, the cases of booze are stacked high.
100%. The floor space is used up, barely enough room to walk up and down the aisles down here.
But this raises
no
a
backyard,
problem.
and only one
The way the law
entrance
works
in and
at
out
the
of the store
moment,
as well.
anyone who sells
we'd have to
refundable
turn part
containers-
of our store over from selling to
The way the law works
taking
at the
back
moment,
bottles.
anyone who and that sells means a refundable sales container fall. has to accept
Potentially,
it back.
I believe
right
it
now,
could put us
wine
out
and
of
liquor
business.
stores don't
This
get
could
many
be a game
refunds.
changer.
But the new plan would Now, change Ryan, that, the and some activist I business- spoke to earlier, he says But the that new more plan would regular change that, bottle and pickups some liquor or store reverse owners vending are nervous. machines could solve Michael's problems. But liquor store owners still aren't convinced. And some canners are unsure as well. Here's Ryan Castalia. He runs the redemption center I visited earlier.
I've heard the concern from some canners about increased competition if the deposit is raised. More people are going to participate, and that might mean turf issues or people competing for more material.
But Oscar the canner, he isn't too worried. He says he'll just work harder. You would work 14 hours a day? 14 hours a day at 63 years old?
Yes, I am ready. I am willing to work.
Tired?
No. I feel good. It doesn't problem. Excuse me, I gotta go.
Oscar gets back to counting out bottles, and Bottle Bill's supporters will be spending the next few days lobbying the governor to make room in the budget. If they succeed, people might soon think twice before they throw away their cans. Thomas Copeland, Columbia Radio News.
And the New York Yankees are so far undefeated. They shut out the San Francisco Giants this afternoon at Yankee Stadium. But there are big changes coming to the game this season. Reporter Valentina Zarin-Martinez headed uptown this morning to check in with fans about what they're looking forward to.
The game won't start for a few hours, but across the street from Yankee Stadium, fans are already gathering. Stuart Stevenson has been playing them baseball tunes for over 7 years.
That's an old Yankee theme song. I love it. Yeah,
Stevenson is also an avid baseball fan, and he's been following the Yankees since the time of what he calls the classic players.
Well, I remember when I used to come to the games, that's when they had the old players, like I said, like Lou Piniella, Reggie Jackson, Chris Chambliss, Bucky Dent. Yeah, those are my Yankees, yeah.
But today, fans are excited about a new player, Anthony Volpe, the team's shortstop, and the youngest Yankee to start the season since Derek Jeter at 21 years old. Down the block, Fran Nesarello is ready to welcome Volpe to the Bronx with a handmade poster in Yankee colors, red, blue, and white. Tell me about your sign.
All right, so it is opening day. I expected Anthony to be here in the Bronx on opening day, so I got a hashtag Volpening Day. It says, welcome to the Bronx, Anthony Volpe. Anthony, A-N-T-H-O. The N-Y is the New York Yankee logo. And then it says Volpe, and then it says, you're proof that hard work and dedication turn dreams into reality.
Esarello is confident that Volpe is a baseball star in the making.
I'll tell you right now, this kid, I expect him to produce right out the gate, but if he struggles, he's not the kid that's going to roll over or die within the pressure of the Bronx. He's going to adapt, he's going to evolve, and he's going to perform better.
And there's something else new at baseball stadiums today. New rules for the game intended to speed it up and make it more exciting to fans, including bigger bases and a pitch clock. Yankees rival, James O'Brien, came all the way from Sunnyvale, California to support his team, the San Francisco Giants, as they take on the Yankees. He's skeptical about the new rules and if they would actually make the games shorter.
Well, it'd be nice if they're shorter, but at the same time, you got the pitch clock, but then they're also saying the bigger bases and stuff will make more hits and more runs, which will make the games longer, so we'll see how it pans out.
But O'Brien has been a season ticket holder for 20 years, and bottom line, he's here to watch a ball game.
Just like to get the season off to an exciting start, and here at Yankee Stadium, it's historical.
As long as you're in the winning team. Valentina Zarin-Martinez, Columbia Radio News.
That's it for this edition of Uptown Radio. We hope you enjoyed the show. Our executive producer today was Henrietta McFarlane. Leading our staff of reporters was senior producer Trisha Schwartz. Director Thomas Copeland coordinated our studio production team. Our producer V. Tran led our copy team and assisted in the studio. Isabel Tier delivered our local newscast, and day reporter Valentina Zarin-Martinez brought you the latest on the ground in New York. Our instructors Sally Herships, Robert Smith, and Lydia McMullen-Laird advised our staff. I'm Elizabeth Erb. Uptown Radio is live Thursdays at 4. Until next time, you can always find us at uptownradio.org. From all of us here at Uptown Radio, thanks for listening.